Okay, for this question, we need to follow our +1 sentence rule. It's really important here. They're asking why they included these extended quotations. Well, the odds are very good that when you have a quotation like this, before and after it, you're either going to set it up or explain it and make it very clear why you're including it. So you have to read this extra stuff. And so it's a very it's a very important rule for lots of reasons, but especially when they're asking why they've included something. The way that good writers write is each sentence follows from the next. So if they included one sentence, the sentence before probably led into it. So use that fact to help you. In this case, even just one sentence before, it says, not surprisingly, perhaps, some news journalists feel uneasy about this renegotiation of their authority. So news journalists feel uneasy. And sure enough, as we go into these quotes, one is by a journalist, one is a news editor, and they're complaining. Listen, editors are increasingly casting a glance at the most read lists on their own and other websites to work out which stories matter to readers and viewers. And now the audience, which used to know its place, that's a mean thing to say, is being asked to act as a kind of journalistic ombudsman ruling on our credibility. This is a complaint. This is a person about feeling uneasy and not liking what's going on. The second quote, the result of democratizing access to TV news could be political disengagement by the majority and a dumbing down through a popularity contest of stories. This is also someone complaining, not saying positive things. And it concludes, despite the rhetorical bluster of these statements, so bluster, not a good thing, they amount to more than straightforward professional defensiveness. So professionals, the journalists, are defending themselves. But it's more than that. So now we just look at the choices, and we can still use process of elimination and look for strong words, but because we read that extra sentence, we have more stuff to think about as we look at these choices. So number one, or letter A, present contradictory examples. Well, as I said, they're both complaints. They both fit the same kind of negative, dumb summary, so they're not contradictory. They're working together. They do the same thing. B, cite representative opinions. Okay, well, maybe you don't understand that one, but cite, well, it's a quotation, so that usually goes with the word cite. Representative opinions. Well, as I said, the setup tells us that news journalists feel uneasy, and then the two quotes are kind of examples of journalists feeling uneasy. So that feels like it represents their opinions. But let's look at C and D. Criticize typical viewpoints. Well, these are definitely negative viewpoints, but they are not criticizing a typical viewpoint. I don't know typical that fits in either case, referring to other people's opinions or these opinions that are given for us here. Typical is one of those strong words that we need to be cautious of. We would need evidence that they're criticizing a typical viewpoint, or that these two quotes are typical viewpoints. We don't really have that. And so that word is the problem. I know that these are negative kind of sounding things, and that makes us maybe think that criticize is a good match. Maybe these journalists are criticizing the state of the world right now, but I don't have any evidence that that's what the typical person thinks. And so I can't choose this. It's a little too strong. Choice D, suggest viable alternatives. Well, there's no alternatives. They're not suggesting anything. They're just complaining. So B is right. If you're down to B and C, that's understandable. C is basically wrong because it goes too far. It's too strong. And so sometimes when you're down to two choices and you're not really sure, guess the weaker one. Guess the one that takes less of a stand, that seems a little bit more bland. That tends to be the right answer. So maybe you can't pinpoint exactly what word is wrong in choice C, but you should at least be able to see, like, okay, well, B is kind of neutral. It's not really taking a position. And it does match with what the +1 sentence tells us, at least at the beginning, for sure. So always read that extra sentence.